Okay guys, I'm going to go over with you how to solve these problems on this extra review for 4-4. Okay, so if you notice, all of them want you to put it in standard form. That's going to help you identify what kind of equation we're dealing with. And then once you know what kind of equation you've got, right, if it's an ellipse, you're going to find the center, the vertices, and the foci. If it's a hyperbola, you're going to find the center, the vertices, the foci, and the asymptotes. And if it ends up being a parabola, you're going to find the vertex, focus, and directrix. And then you're going to graph the shape. So again, the first step in every one, you're not really going to know in the beginning the difference between an ellipse and a hyperbola, but you will know if it's a parabola. What you're going to do first is you're going to look at what's being squared. Here you've got an x squared and a y squared. So since you have two variables being squared, you know it's not a parabola. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our x's together, 9x squared plus 36x plus 4y squared minus 24y, and we're going to move our constant to the other side. And we're going to do completing the square for the x's, and we're going to do it for the y's. Now remember, for completing the square, what's attached to the x squared has to be a 1. So we're going to have to divide out a 9 here. So x squared plus 4x. And then again, for completing the square, we're going to do half of, well, let me just do, I'll do this too. I'll do the plus 4 over here, y squared minus 6y, and then it still equals negative 36. Okay, so now I'll work on completing the square. I'm going to do half of positive 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So it's a plus 4. But it's really, in reality, it's a plus 36, and so I'm going to add 36 to the other side. And then I'm going to go to the y. I'm going to do half of negative 6 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. And again, 4 times 9 is 36. So there's another 36 that I have to add to the other side. So now I've got 9 times x plus 2 squared plus 4 times y minus 3 squared equals, these two cancel, leaving me with a 36. Last step, remember that it has to equal 1. So I'm going to have to divide every fraction by 36. So that's going to leave me with x plus 2 squared over 4. That's going to leave me with y minus 3 squared over 9. And that's going to leave me with 1. Okay, and so there's my equation. Now that I see the equation, right, so I get to my equation. This is kind of what I was trying to get to. I'm able to see, oh, it's an addition problem. So if it's an addition problem, I know it's an ellipse, right? And also, now I know all the rules of the ellipse. I know that a squared is the larger number. So I know that a squared equals 9. That means a equals 3. I know that b squared equals 4. That means b equals 2. Because the a squared is under the y variable, I know this is a vertical ellipse. I know that my center is located at hk. In this case, it's going to be negative 2 and positive 3. So I'm able to get a lot, right? I'm able to get my c squared. Remember, c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So c squared is 9 minus 4. C squared equals 5. That means c equals the square root of 5. And so again, now that I have all this information, it's pretty easy for me to start determining where my, my vertex is, my focus, and all that. Now, for purposes of this video, I think once you guys are here, I think you all know what to do. I'm going to post the solutions. But just remember, wherever your center is, let's say negative 2, positive 3 here, it's a vertical ellipse, which means I know it's going to go on this axis here, right? So I know that my A value, whatever my A was, 3, I know I'm going to go up 3 and down 3, right? Same goes for my C value and everything else. So my axis that I'm focusing on is that vertical axis, okay? So I'm going to let you guys do the graph and everything else. You can see by the answer key what it needs to look like. Let's now move to the second problem, okay? So we get here to our second problem, And again, we're doing the same kind of ideas, right? Same strategy. I'm going to look at it first. Let me kind of mark that off. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look for the squareds. I see an x squared and a y squared, which tells me that it's an ellipse or a hyperbola. So I'm going to put my x's together. 9x squared plus 54x minus y squared plus 10y. And I'm going to move the 47 to the other side. I'm going to group these off, right? I'm going to pull out the 9 with the x's. It's going to leave me with x squared plus 6x. I'm going to pull out a negative 1 with the y, and it's going to leave me with y squared minus 10y. And I'm going to complete the square now. I know that half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. And 9 times 9 is 81. And then I know half of negative 10 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. So this ends up being a minus 25. So a minus 25 on the other side. So I'm ready now. I know this is a 9 times x plus 3 squared minus 1 times y minus 5 squared equals, when I do the math here, negative 47 and negative 25 add up to negative 72, and negative 72 and 81 is a positive 9. So it looks like that. And again, remember that it has to equal 1. I know a hyperbola or an ellipse always equal 1. So divide everything by 9. And we're going to get here an x plus 3 squared over 1, we could write if you want. Plus we've got a y minus 5 squared. Oh, it's not a plus actually, it's a minus. Sorry. Minus the y minus 5 over 9 equals 1. And so now I have my equation in standard form, which is what I was looking for. And now I can analyze that equation and determine how to go from here. Just really quickly, I know that it's a subtraction, so this ends up being a hyperbola. Okay. Now I know that a squared is always the first one, so I know a squared is 1. That means a equals 1. I know b squared is 9, so b equals 3. I know that c squared equals a squared plus b squared, which is going to be 1 plus 9, which is 10. So c squared equals 10. C equals square root of 10. What else do I know? Oh, I know that the a squared is under the x variable, which means this is a horizontal hyperbola. And lastly, I know my center is located at HK, which is negative 3, positive 5. So I have that. Now again, from there, if my center is at negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like here, right? I know that this is a horizontal situation, so I know that my main axis is going to go that way. So when I'm looking at my A value and my foci and whatever else I'm doing, I know I'm going to go in that direction. In this particular case, we also need our asymptotes. And so again, but this is all part of, your lesson on asymptotes and stuff. So, but really quickly, the equation for the asymptote, because it's a hyperbola, remember it's horizontal, it's going to be k plus or minus, it's going to be b over a times x minus h. And so again, you can do the math there and plug those in, but that would be the formula you would use and you would graph it. If I have time at the end of this video, I'll come back in and I'll add maybe the graphs. Okay, so we're going to get to the next one, which is here. We're going to look at this equation, and you're going to see that you have a y squared minus 12y minus 8x plus 20 equals 0. The only thing squared, guys, is the y squared. So you know that what you're dealing with is a parabola. And remember, the formula for a parabola always has an x squared or a y squared by itself on the left side. So that means I'm going to have to move the 8x over, and I'm going to have to move the constant over. So if I complete the square here on the left, right, it's going to be, let me do this, it's going to be half of negative 12 is negative 6. Negative 6 squared is 36. So I'm going to add 36 to the other side. I'm going to get y minus 6 squared equals 8x plus 16. Now, you would think you were done, but remember that the formula looks more like this, right? It's going to be y minus k squared equals, I'm trying to figure out, remember the formula, a times x minus h, right? So I need an a times something. So what I have to do is this x and this y always have to be 1 x or 1 y. If there's a number there, it has to be divided out or factored out. So this is going to stay the same, but I'm going to take an 8 out of here, and it's going to leave me with x plus 2, okay? Now I'm ready. So if you notice in this problem, okay, your a value is 8. Now remember that in this particular type of question, remember that I'm kind of going back to an old formula. It's not really a anymore. Remember, we replaced a with 4p, right? So in this problem, 4p equals 8. That means p equals 2. Remember, p is the distance from your vertex to your foci or your focus or your directrix. So p is 2. We've got here h is negative 2. K equals positive 6. So you know your vertex is located at negative 2, 6. And I'm trying to think what else. You know it's a y squared. So you know it is a parabola that is going to be, horizontal, it's going to be right or left. And because this is positive, you know your parabola is going to go in that direction. So again, you guys can come up with the details and the graph, but this is how we get to the equation. So the equation necessary here is this one. And from there, you can go and you can graph all the rest. Okay, so again, we come over to here. Same thing, we've got 3 more problems asking you the same thing. And once again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to get to the point of the equation because from there, you've practiced a lot to answer all the questions. So in 18, I'm looking at it. I see an x squared and a y squared, so I know it's an ellipse or a parabola. An ellipse or a hyperbola, not a parabola. So I'm going to put 4x squared plus 24x together. I'm going to do plus 9y squared plus 36 together. 9y squared minus 36y, and then the plus 36 is going to go to the other side. Again, I've got to kind of group off my variables, and I've got to factor out whatever's in front of this x squared. It has to be 1x squared, right? And I need to do that because that's the process for completing the square. So y squared minus 4y equals negative 36. So now I'm ready to complete the square. Half of 6 is 3, 3 squared is 9, and 4 times 9 is 36. And then half of 4 is negative 2, negative 2 squared is 4, and I've got again another plus 36. So this becomes 4 times x plus 3 squared plus 9 times y minus 2 squared equals 36. Last but not least, I know I have to divide everything by 36 because it has to equal 1. I feel like I've already done this problem. Very similar problem anyway. So I'm going to simplify, and I'm going to get my final answer. So my final answer is going to be x plus 3 squared over 9 plus y minus 2 squared over 4, and it equals 1. And so at this point, I see the plus sign. I know that it is an ellipse, right? It's an ellipse. I know that it is because I know a squared is going to be the larger number, so a squared is 9, so a is 3. Because the a squared is under the x variable, I know it's a horizontal ellipse. The b squared is 4, which means b is 2. C squared is 5, so c is the square root of 5. And the center, we've got some key facts here. Center is negative 3, positive 2. I feel like we already had this problem. I think I just did that problem on the last page. But anyway, and then you just go from there. Okay, once you have all that, you can start doing your graph. Okay, I was trying to find a way to shrink these numbers, but I don't know how to do it. So take a screenshot at this point because I'm going to erase this work and I'm going to go on to problem number 20, okay? So I'm just going to erase this and we're going to go to the next problem, okay? In problem number 20, again, we're going to do the same process. I see an x squared and a y squared, so I know it is an ellipse or a hyperbola. So x squared plus 50x minus 16y squared minus 96y equals negative 281. Again, I'm going to group my x's and my y's, so I'm going to pull out the GCF of the x's. Not the GCF, rather, the first term, sorry, the 25, the first coefficient. X squared plus 2x. And then I'm going to pull out the minus 16, which is going to leave me with y squared plus 6y equals negative 281. I'm going to take half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 25 times 1 is 25. And then I'm going to take half of 6 and square that, so that's 9. And negative 16 times 9 is negative 144. Okay? So now over on this side, I'm going to have 25 times x plus 1 squared minus 16 times y plus 3 squared. And it's going to equal, let me figure out what the math is here. It's going to be, okay, so when I did the math, it was negative 400. So now I know when I'm here at this stage, I have to divide everything by negative 400 because remember, we have to end up with equals 1, right? So negative 400. So this is going to be x plus 1 squared over 16. This is going to be a plus, so that's going to cancel. That's going to be 25, right? This became a 16. And so this is going to be a y plus 3 squared over 25, and it's going to equal positive 1. So here you might be tricked a little bit in thinking, oh, this is going to be an ellipse because it's a plus. But this minus here makes a difference. I have to reorder this. I have to put the y plus 3 squared over 25 first, and then the minus here. And once I move it, all of a sudden I think it becomes obvious to you that this is actually a hyperbola because of the subtraction. So it's a hyperbola. Remember, in a hyperbola, the first term, the first denominator is the a squared. So a squared is 25. That means a is 5. B squared is 16. That means b is 4. And c squared, remember, it's always a squared plus b squared, so it's going to be 41. And c is the square root of 41. Again, in this problem, my center is my h and k, so be careful because x is second, so your h is going to be negative 1, and your k is going to be negative 3. And you're also going to notice that the variable above the a squared is y, which means this is a vertical hyperbola. Again, because it's vertical, when you're doing your asymptote equation, remember it's k plus or minus, and it's going to be a over b times x minus h. Okay, so it's going to be a over b this time because it's vertical, not horizontal. But again, and then you just do all the work from there, but this is how we get to our answer. Okay, and last but not least, we'll do number 22. I'll leave this writing on there. Number 22, notice it's just a y squared. So again, you've got a parabola here. So we're going to have to move the 8x to the right and the 31. We're going to have to complete the square over on this side. Or actually, I'll just do it in the original. So it's going to be, I'll complete the square over here. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9, so plus 9. So this is a y plus 3 squared equals 8x plus 40. Again, remember that you can't have an 8x over there on the right side. That has to be like a single x. So I'm going to have to divide out an 8. So it's going to be 40 divided by 8. I could simplify that a little bit, right? 8, and it's x plus 40 over 8 is actually 5. Right? So now I'm done, and again, I know I have a parabola, right? I know wow, that's interesting. Parabola. I know it is it's a y squared, so it's going to be a horizontal parabola. I know that this is positive, which means I know it's going to go to the right. Again, I know 4p equals 8, so p is 2. I know my center is located at -3. Oh, no, not -3. It's h and k, right? H is -5, and k is -3. And again, now I can identify all my other points. But this is how, we do it. This is how we put it in standard form. This is the equation that we need. And then all the rest comes from that equation. Same thing here. This would be the equation we would need here. So I hope this helped, guys. I think now, you guys are good. Anything from here, if you go back and graph and do all your values, okay, you've already practiced that a lot, so I think you're going to be good. I'm going to post solutions for this that include all those values so you can check those answers. But I know this is the part that most of you were worried about, is getting it to these equations. And I think now this might help you.